Hello and welcome to the first episode of the 92 Ramble. I'm Thomas Hauges, your host, and I'm joined by Harry Pearson and Joe Edgerton. Today we'll be discussing Wolves and Southampton both sacking the managers and also reflect on the games we went to this morning, on Saturday. We're going to start in Premier League with Wolverhampton Wanderers who sacked the manager after a poor run of form that seen them only pick up 2 points after 10 games. This season's bottom of the Premier League table, and they're the only team in the top 7 leagues of English football not to win this season. Joe, what have you made of Wolves at start of the season?
I think it was pretty inevitable that it would be this way. They were favourites to go down in the summer. They lost a lot of players. They didn't quite replace those players, which has been a big issue. And it's not just the fact that they're leaking goals, it's the fact that they're not creating enough chances, they're not scoring enough goals. I mean, they're 20th in the league for big chances created, but they haven't, they're not. That goes to show a big problem that they've got. They scored 7 in 10, which is on average 0.7 goals per game. So there's obviously a big issue there. But it's not just the issue with Wolves going forward, it's the issue that they've got defensively. They've conceded the most goals in the league. And I think it was a pretty no-brainer that Pereira was going to get sacked. It was a matter of time. I mean, the only thing that surprised me is that it didn't happen a little bit quicker. It got to the stage where the fans were turning against him, and it felt like he was never going to win them back. But it's not just his fault. I think the players that they got rid of in the summer, getting rid of Cunha to United, they just haven't replaced those players. And I think most Wolves fans said pre-season that if they stayed up this year, that would be a good season. So whoever goes there now has got a big job on their hands, because not only have you got to get them creating more chances and keeping the ball out the back of the net, you've got to win the fans straight away, because pressure is really mounting on that football club at the moment.
I actually couldn't agree more with your comments. I think, especially with another player that you didn't mention, was Ryan Ait-Nouri, selling him to Man City. I think he created a lot of big chances last year. I don't have the actual stat, but he was such a key player for them going down the left with Cunha, and they lost that whole left side, showing that they now don't have like an avenue of attack. So I agree.
And it almost is like we're back to square one with Wolves after last season. Obviously, them sacking Gary Neal in a very similar position. Who do you think will replace them, Joe?
Well, at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Gary O'Neill, and I think that is a pretty safe appointment because he knows the football club very well. It's not the most exciting of appointments, but it's sort of one of those appointments where it's risk-free. He already knows the football club very well. His style of football, is he the right man to take him forward? I'm not so sure, but it does feel like a safe choice because he knows the football club very well. He knows the players. Rob Edwards has also been linked. I mean, he's a very good Championship manager. The job he did at Luton was very good. He's doing very well at Middlesbrough. Yeah. Do I think that would be a good appointment for Wolves? I think it'd be a little bit risky because he's not quite proven in the Premier League. And I think from Rob Edwards' point of view, he's doing really well at Middlesbrough at the moment. He's actually got more chance of being in the Premier League next season if he stays at Middlesbrough than if he goes to Wolves, because I don't think Wolves stay up no matter who replaces Pereira. He's a young manager as well, so maybe he needs to learn his trade in the Championship. And I think if Edwards gets 2 promotions on his CV, I think that's much more attractive than going to Wolves and then having 2 Premier League relegations. So, I mean, for me, Ten Hag's name is also being mentioned. Can I see that happening? I don't think it would happen, to be honest. I think Gary O'Neill feels like more of a safe appointment. So, yeah, that's where I stand on Wolves at the moment.
I think personally, Rob Edwards would be a bad idea because he's doing very well in Middlesbrough, and it almost feels like he'd be jumping ship prematurely. He only joined in the summer, and he talked a lot in press on the unity with him and the fans. Gary O'Neill, it seems like too soon because obviously he started in last year, and now they're almost bringing him back. I think the Sporting man would be a good appointment. He's doing very well with them. What do you think, Harry?
I don't really know. It just seems like a ship that's already been sunken with Wolves. They just don't like the fans, the owner, the manager, it all just seems so distant. And even from game one, they were, you know, not very optimistic, not bought well. I'd argue that Wolves' players and team right now is probably the most unknown team, especially in the last 5 years in the Premier League, that I can think of. You look at a lot of their signings, I had no idea who they was. And, you know, you try and keep up with the top 5 leagues around Europe. You try and look at, you know, maybe the Belgium league, Eredivisie, all them kind of leagues. You have some idea of the top players in that league. And they spent big money. They spent 139 million on, as I said before, kind of unproven, unknown individuals that just haven't replaced the gaps that they needed to replace. You know, we spoke about the sales already. I think that's a big hit, and that's the reason why they did stay up last year. But on form, they probably have one of the top 10 strikers in the Premier League in Strand Larsen. He's that kind of profile that I think a lot of clubs look at nowadays in terms of going with set pieces, which we're seeing more of a trend of, long throws, seeing more of a trend of. That more, you know, like quote unquote English style of football is returning, and he would thrive off of that. But I wouldn't be able to name one player that is actually helping him at the minute. Don't get me wrong, he's not scoring. Wolves aren't scoring, but there's zero creativity at all. And I think that's the problem. But also, in terms of going back to manager, I think I agree with what he said about Gary O'Neill being a safe option. But I think it stems from above. I don't think the owners have handled it very well. Their spending was a bit willy-nilly at times. You go back to when Wolves got into Europe under Nuno, the signings that they were making were smart, sensible, kind of risk-free, but also young, exciting, the likes of, you know, Ruben Neves. But then on the other end of it, João Moutinho, he was, you know, old head, but you knew he'd do a job. You knew that they'd kind of complement each other, but they just don't seem to be sticking to that recruitment style at all now. And I don't really know where Wolves go from here other than relegation, to be honest.
I think what I would say about Rob Edwards, though, is that it would sort of be, there wouldn't be as much pressure on him because he already has a strong connection to Wolves. He was a former player there. He was an academy coach. He's got good success at the championships. I suppose he'll think, you know, can I take it to the next level? And it would feel a bit more of an energetic appointment in terms of there would be less pressure. I think the fans would accept him straight away because he's still a young manager who's learning. But I just don't think whoever goes there keeps them up, to be honest, because I think the problems at the football club lie more than what's happening on the field, to be honest. Yeah. And I think if they get cut too far adrift going into January, especially with how competitive the league is this year, I mean, all three promoted teams look like they stand a very good chance of staying up. West Ham just picked up a big win yesterday. So it depends how caught adrift they are in January in terms of also getting recruitment in the next transfer window.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Wolves as well, there is a bigger issue with the owners that aren't very popular amongst the fans. So yeah, dropping down to Championship, another team that have done quite poorly, Southampton. After a dismal start, they found themselves in 21st place, and they've only won 2 of the first league contests. Over the weekend, they suffered a late defeat to high-flying Preston, and unfortunately, manager Wilsdale was the first casualty of the season. They are, since the 2024 playoff final, they've only won 4 out of the 51 games. Harry, what do you make of the decision to sack Will Still?
Listen, I think Will Still is a bright manager who will definitely have a higher ceiling, in my opinion, from what I've watched of him when he was in Ligue 1. And I just think the relegation and just the way and the mannerisms of Southampton just doesn't seem right at the minute. Kind of the same with Wolves. I think it's more of a hierarchy kind of thing. I think the Saints fans would probably agree with me. I've kind of read into that and touched into it, that they weren't singing for Will Still to get sacked in the morning, as a lot of clubs would sing or fan bases would sing. They were saying that they want the owners out. The recruitment strategies changed. They used to be going for young, exciting players who they'd sell on for a profit and then keep reinvesting, whether they were going up and down the leagues. But now it just seems a bit wayward. They spent 60 million this summer, which for a championship side, that is a lot of money. And not many of them players are getting in the starting 11. And that was, the starting 11 that played against Preston at the weekend. I think they had 4 actually, that they spent money on this summer that have come in and now started. But yeah, I feel as if it's another thing of ownership problem more than manager and team.
And obviously they've got some good players in there. You like sort of Taylor Hart-Bellis, Adam Armstrong, who have been real swords promotion campaigns in the past. And obviously they have spent big, but is it a wider issue about the culture? Because they were fairly dismal last year. So I guess my question to you is, Joe, what's wrong with Southampton?
I think with the transfer window, they were obviously going to lose a lot of players. That was a no-brainer. I think it's the fact that the players they were brought in very late in the transfer window. So Will still didn't really have much time to prepare with those players, because he didn't have a pre-season. They were brought in very late, and the new players that have came in just haven't settled yet. There is a lack of settled direction at the football club. I think the changes in leadership, the recruitment strategy. So ultimately, I don't think it is down to Will Still. We can have a debate about whether he was cut out for the championship, but I think the job that he did abroad, I don't think there's any reason why he wasn't the right man for the job, if that makes sense. If you want to talk about on the pitch, I mean, their attacking numbers are really poor. They've lacked a consistent goal scorer, and going forward, they have looked pretty weak. They've conceded the most errors leading to shots, which is 6, and goals 4. Early in the season, when adapting their style, and since, as you mentioned before, Thomas, they played 51 league games since the playoff final and won 4. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. So I don't think the problems do lie with the manager. I don't think they necessarily lie with the players. I think it's more the culture of the football club.
Yeah. I think, obviously, the championship is very tough, but you look at both Southampton and Sheffield United, who've both been up there recently, they are really struggling. So is it potentially a sign of what's going on in the Premier League going down to Championship?
I don't know, because I feel as if I disagree. I actually disagree. I don't think it is particularly a fact of coming down. I think it's just that they haven't reacted quick enough to the problems above, or manager problems. Like Sheffield United obviously sacked Wilder after the playoff final last year, brought in Ruben Sellers, who I think we could all agree is quite an exciting, promising manager. But I'd say that the same with Will Still. I just don't know what the actual problem is other than the ownership with Southampton, but then also Sheffield United. I think it's one of them where they're spending a lot of money, Southampton, Sheffield United, because they're getting that parachute payment. But the likes of, Leicester, Ipswich, again, your point does make sense. They're not blowing the league away like everyone else thought they would. And, there might be something to look at in terms of, if you do get relegated from the Premier League, what has to change?
One team that is doing very well is Coventry, up until the keeper hat-trick. What do you make of the Sky Blues' performance so far, Joe?
I mean, it's just insane, isn't it? To score 5 goals against Derby, 7 against QPR, 4 against Millwall. It's not just the fact they're winning games of football, it's the fact that they're scoring so many goals, and they just look unstoppable, to be honest. when Frank Lampard came in, he took them from 17th to 6th. People will say he had a very good squad, but you've still got to change the attitude of the football club, and I thought he did that really well. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them to go up because of being very close last few seasons. But I mean, you look at Lampard, the jobs that he's had, he took a lot of very big jobs early on, and I think that's his only biggest mistake. I do think he's a very good manager, and I think his football is very attractive to watch. When he was at Derby, he brought through Mount Wilson and Tomori, so he's very good at bringing through young players. And then when he went to Chelsea the season after that, they had that transfer embargo. Chelsea kind of thought, well, Lampard's the man to bring through young players, and he did that very well at Chelsea once again with Tomori and Mount. So I think most jobs he's been at, my only criticism about Lampard is that the jobs he took were too big for him. But what he's doing at Coventry now is absolutely sensational. I mean, I think they scored 36 goals, something like that, and Middlesbrough
after a matter of games.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were on 29 points out of 12 games, which is a record. But obviously, when Burnley murdered the league, when Reading did it a number of years ago, the record was 21. Coventry on 29, and that is a sign of things to come.
So it's not even the fact that they're scraping wins; they are storming past games, and I honestly can't see how they don't get promoted from the position they're in. I know it's very early days, but you don't score that amount of goals in that many games if you aren't, going to be challenging.
You look at the quality of the goals on Friday night from Sakamoto. That was an outrageous effort. I know they lost, but it was still a very good goal to score.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I believe that was their first defeat of the season.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of their games this season, and nobody looks like beating them, to be honest. Wrexham had to work really hard for it. And I don't think Coventry were bad on Friday night. I really don't. I just think Wrexham were a little bit better. But again, it was a game where both teams created a lot of chances, and ultimately their unbeaten streak was going to come to an end eventually. But I don't think that's a sign of things to come. I think they're going to be absolutely fine, and it'll be interesting to see where they are in January. And if Lampard does manage to get Cobb promoted, it'll be interesting to see if there are clubs knocking on the door for him.
I want to touch back up on your points on Frank Lampard about you thinking that he shouldn't have gone to Chelsea and Everton. But I think that has set him up perfectly for what Coventry is, especially the Everton job, because Coventry, again, have had their struggles with, ownership, not having a stadium, all them kind of things in the past couple of years. But Everton are kind of the same. He went into Everton, he balanced the books, he, managed a difficult turmoil situation where the only way looked like down for Everton, and he kind of stabilised, yes, Dyche helped with that as well. But I think that they were perfect for him, to be honest, in terms of working with limited resources for both clubs and developing a style of play which suits certain players. I think he's getting the best out of a lot of players at Coventry, like you guys have already spoke about. And I think, the only way's up for Coventry. They look very good, scoring a lot of goals, not conceding many, and as you said, they're blitzing past people at times. They're really good to watch as well.
And the free flowing football is very good, but can this last in the Premier League? We saw it a number of years ago with Burnley, where they played the nice attacking football and then went to Premier League and got absolutely annihilated. Do you think Lampard's experience obviously gives him that sort of edge of saying, okay, we might need to go more defensive sort of thing?
I think if they get promoted, I think the only criticism I would have, or my biggest concern, would probably be experience. I feel like they would need a little bit more experience because, yes, you've got to have a blend of experienced players and young players. You can't just go to the Premier League with young, exciting, attacking players. You've got to have that blend, if that makes sense. But I mean, there's a long way to go yet, but there's no reason why Cov shouldn't be competing for the top two because, as I mentioned before, you're not scoring that many goals a game if you aren't on the real deal. It'd be interesting to see if he stays at Cov next season. I know there were rumours of him with the Southampton job. I mean, if he was to leave Coventry for Southampton, he would be very foolish. I could picture him being a West Ham manager one day. But I think he's got to learn his trade at Coventry now, because if he can keep up what he's doing at Coventry and what he's building at that football club, he will get big jobs in the future. I've got no doubt about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the perfect way that Coventry do it is exactly how the 3 promoted teams have done it this year. They've kind of all changed their style of play slightly in terms of going maybe that more defensive. But then I think there's been a lot of good examples maybe in the last 2 or 3 seasons in terms of teams counter-attacking more, not wanting the ball, and then, having them quick players to play on the break. We talked about players with experience. You look at Sunderland signing Xhaka, like, just now, that signing is probably the signing of the summer. I'd argue that, just for how much he brings to Sunderland, the experience, the leadership, that kind of thing. I think if Coventry do go up, that's probably the thing they look for in terms of smart investment, looking maybe a little bit of change of style of play, but then also, as you guys said, that balance between experience and young players.
Yeah. I think with Cobb as well, they need that experience just to almost give them the Premier League. You've got Ellis Sims, who's played some games in the Premier League, but then not many other players that have got experience, obviously, in respective national leagues.
Yeah.
Right,
No,
now we're going to play a brief game called 20 Questions. So we're going to go with Harry first. You've got 20 questions to get a player.
Ooh, okay. Top 5 leagues in Europe.
Yes.
The Premier League.
Yes.
Generic top 6 team.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Do they play in red?
Yes.
Do they play for Man United?
Yes.
Okay. Was this player signed this summer?
No.
Okay. Is this player English?
No.
Okay. Are they a defender?
No.
Midfielder?
Yes.
Okay. Are they from South America?
Yes.
That leaves me 2, I think. Are they Brazilian?
Yes.
Is it Casemiro?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Sorted. Bosh.
Right, one for you, Joe.
Go on.
You have 20 questions to guess this player. Go.
Okay. Premier League.
No.
Championship.
Nope.
Is it a major European league?
Yes.
Italy.
Yes.
Italy. Is it a top 4 club?
Yes.
AC Milan.
Nope.
Inter Milan.
Nope.
Lazio.
No.
God. AC Milan, Inter Milan, Lazio. What nationality are they? Are they Italian?
UK.
Defender.
No.
Oh God. I feel like it's going to be someone blatantly obvious. English plays in Serie A.
I didn't say English.
What
It's in
position?
UK.
Oh, British, right? Okay. What
Midfielder.
position?
Midfielder.
Got McTominay.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Let's go, Joe.
I had some more in my head when you said British, UK.
Yeah, I thought instantly he was going down the Derby route, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think I probably
100%.
asked more questions than what you did, though, there.
Yeah.
To be honest, we probably should have kept count, but
Yeah.
you know, oh well.
So now
I think mine was 9. I think
Mine was
but-
definitely more than that.
yeah.
oh well.
So now we're going to go into games of the weekend, and we're going to start with you, Joe.
Yeah.
You went to Sheffield United and you watched our beat them pretty convincingly.
Yes, yeah. Colton Morris hat trick. I mean, last 3 games we've really turned a corner. Ever since Sondre Langas has been back in the team, we've just looked a completely different team. I think John Eustace is starting to find out what his best team is now the players have came back from injury. Derby fans always said October time was the time where we start to we start to fairly judge this team. Ultimately, we're never going to have a fully fit squad. I think that's important to know. But in a way, that's been a good thing because it means he's been able to experiment and he's been able to change formation and change the way he wants to set up. I think ever since we've had Ozo and Clark as 2 holding midfielders, I think we've looked so much more direct. We move the ball so much more quicker. And it just feels like we've really taken 2 steps forward from what was a slow start to the season. I mean, first 5 games we had Stoke, Coventry, Bristol City, Ipswich, West Brom. There's 2 clubs in the playoffs, and the rest, the other 3 clubs who were favourites to be fighting for promotion. So we had a very difficult start, but now he is going to get judged because Derby have spent money in the summer, and on Saturday we were fantastic from minute 1. I don't think Sheffield United really laid a glove on us, to be honest. It never felt like they were going to score. They were really sloppy. I mean, you look at the goals, they were all poor defensive goals. First goal was from a corner. No one's picked up Colton Morris. He's got a free header. Second goal, it came from a back pass on the halfway line. Sheffield United are in an absolute mess at the moment. And it goes back to my point that they're in a bit of a mess off the pitch. Sacking Wilder, bringing in Sellers, and Wilder's came back. I think the problem that Sheffield United have got is the fact that they didn't bring in enough quality in the summer. They've got a very good squad now, and they have a lot of good individual players like Sedi Peck and Gustavo Hamer, even though he's injured, Callum O'Hare. But it just doesn't really feel like they've got a game plan. It doesn't feel like there's any style of play or fluidity in the way that they play. I mean, 10 defeats in 13, it goes to show a story that you've had 2 managers now and neither one of them are getting a tune out of the players. So I think from Sheffield United point of view, that January transfer window is going to be massive. And the question that Sheffield United fans have got to be asking is, do they cash in on Hamer and get a bit of money in, or do they keep Hamer until the end of the season and Sedi Peck and let their contract run out? So, yeah, I do think Sheffield United will get out of the position we're in. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on them now because the gap is getting bigger and bigger.
And obviously, Sheffield United done very well historically, but they seem to be struggling. Do you think the injuries have helped them or not?
I mean, I think it's the fact that he's just not getting a tune out of them. There's not really a game plan. Like on Saturday, most of their chances came from set pieces, balls into the box. They've got quite a few, big physical plays, but they just didn't really create much from open play. I don't think Zetterstrom had too many saves to make at all. And you look at the players they're bringing on, they're just not bringing on enough quality. And ultimately, I think it is because the injuries haven't helped. But every championship club has injuries. You look at that squad on paper, that is a top 6 squad, definitely. I think it's the fact that Sellers wasn't backed in the summer. Obviously, Sack and Wilder didn't go down well with the fans. So I just think there's problems that stemmed pre-season, which has ultimately affected the position that they're in now. So I don't think it is just down to injuries. No, I think it's more than that. I think it's Sack and Wilder, bringing in Sellers. He didn't get results. But the fact that Wilder isn't getting a tune out of these players either shows that I think they have to start taking some responsibility as well. So I don't think it is just down to injuries. No, I think there's more problems at the football club at the moment.
Yeah. Moving on to the Premier League. You saw it.
No, you go. Go on. Talk about
Talk about Burnley 0, Arsenal 2. A game very much 2 halves. We were quite sloppy in the first half, I will admit that. I thought the first goal shouldn't have been awarded because it came off the end of Trossard. And obviously Arsenal with their very high set piece conversion rate and Gyökeres tapping the 2 yards. I do feel like though second half we were a lot better. Obviously moving out with like the back five and pushing the run up into midfield, pushing Ugowachi that bit higher where he's been really good over the past few weeks. And then a massive game next weekend against West Ham at the London Stadium. It's too early to say must win, but we need to beat teams around us. I feel like we're doing significantly better against teams around us. We've beaten Leeds, beaten Wolves, beat Sunderland quite convincingly. So yeah, massive game on Sunday.
Can I just ask as well, Thomas, do you think the start of the season has exceeded your expectations? Because you were on 10 points, I believe.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
So out of our first 6 games, 5 of them were against European teams. So we had to play Spurs open day season, then Sunderland, then Man United, then Forest, then Liverpool, then City, all in succession. So it has been a tough start with Scott Parker. Do I feel like we need to be reinforced in January? Yes, we need a striker who can score goals. Because Zian Fleming has done well, but he's not got that quality. That you look at Sunderland bringing Xhaka, Leeds bringing proven friendly players. We've brought in Kyle Walker, been great. We've not got that like, attacking threat. Lyle Foster has struggled with injuries again this season. And there's no one really that I think can almost replace him. Armando Broya has been a disappointment. 25 million quid and only played a handful of minutes. So yeah, I think this season was going to rebuild after losing our captain, our goalkeeper last year, and our centre back. So that the middle core of the defence will be ripped apart again for the second season in a row.
Has it pleased you as well the fact that you've been quite difficult to beat? I mean, apart from the Man City game in September, which you lost 5-1, nobody's really battered you.
No one's really battered.
You're not leaking that many goals.
City didn't, in my opinion. I know obviously we went together, Joe, and you'll agree with me. It was never a 5-1 game. They just had that quality that snap within a matter of minutes. It's not like It's not like previously where we've been 4-0 down by half time. We've been dire. We equalised City, which was our first goal at the Etihad for 7 years. So, and also the aggregate score of the Etihad was 42-3 or something since Sean Dyche took over, which is a ridiculous stat. But yeah.
My question to you is, what kind of striker do you think you need to bring in terms of profile, in terms of build? What do you think would suit Burnley's play the best?
Someone with some pace. There was a moment last week where Kyle Walker ran halfway up the pitch and no one was there with him because Zian Fleming lacks pace. Foster has pace, but I worry about his injury record. I would like some experience, like someone who knows the league, not some European striker that ultimately will. Because we tried to roll the dice to David Fafana 2 years ago, and whilst he had that sort of nous about him, he didn't have the longevity. He only scored a handful of goals. So yeah.
I have a brilliant striker you could actually get. I have a really good idea. His name's Tyrell Wanye. If you fancy taking him off our hands, I wouldn't mind.
No, I'm all right, thanks, Harry.
But no, I kind of get what you mean with Burnley. I feel like, we've discussed this. I feel it is that proper goal scorer, someone that is, just that right fit. But in terms of a profile, in terms of a player, I know that you probably wouldn't get this player, but like Callum Wilson, someone like him, knows the league inside out, but also he has the attributes of he can hold the ball up, he links the ball well, but he's a natural poacher. He's still quick, sharp, but again, you've talked about injuries. That'd be the only problem with him.
Somewhat, yeah. United to get away in Haaland, but I don't think that'll happen anytime soon.
I don't think that would happen. Is there anyone on your mind just out the split second you get to think?
I don't know.
You could think about.
If Orban, we live with him in somewhere. He would look a good striker.
He's at Lyon, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a lot younger. I don't know, like maybe Mikel Antonio if he can prove his fit. just like that experience. I know we signed Ashley Barnes for experience. He's only played a handful of minutes. So yeah,
I'm not sure if Mikel Antonio is the right fit for Burnley though. In terms of, I see what he brings, but doesn't Fleming already bring what he would bring in terms of kind of linking that play up? Fleming likes to drop a bit deeper, doesn't he?
this is the thing. Fleming was always a 10 at Millwall.
Yeah, that was my next point.
He started playing further forward under Parker. Was quite. I think it's fair to admit he was quite poor first half of last season, but the second half of last season he really did start.
Yeah,
and you can see those like diving runs in behind. You look at the goal. You look at both goals in last week. They were very much the run from the 10 and then almost putting it in the back of the net. So yeah,
kind of someone to support him.
Can I just ask as well? Do you think people sort of underestimated Burnley because it feels like every team that gets promoted are automatically favourites to go down? But I think the fact that Burnley have been up and down the last few years, and Parker
you look at Parker's record, which is dire. You look at his time at Bournemouth, obviously beating Wolves, losing City, losing to Liverpool, see 9-0 and getting pumped. He has learned, so he spent time under Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea, under Sir Gareth Southgate at England. So I think he has learned, and it was good this time signing the players that got us there first, and then building on it. So building with the likes of Quincy Hartman, Kyle Walker, Ledley Luochu, Florentino, who all bring that sort of like next level. And it just seems like we just don't have that much attacking flair. Jay Nancy's done well. Jakob Brun-Larsen still leaves a lot to be delivered. Loon Chinoa has been good at parts, but doesn't have that almost fitness to go to the full match. Lyle Foster's done really well, but obviously he's now struggling with injuries again, which is always going to be a risk with him. So yeah.
Would you say Parker's won majority of the fan base over? Because as you mentioned there, he had a lot to prove, and there were people probably thinking he'd be the first manager to be sacked.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think Scott's done a very good job of almost steadying the ship a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of getting you back on track. I think he has. He's put you on a upwards trajectory more than instead of, when you think of Burnley and you just think, yo-yo as such, especially in the last couple of years, you think of, a team that isn't good enough for the Premier League, but is too good for the Championship. But I think now with the players you've signed, you compete in, it's good to see, especially from, people that watch the Premier League a lot. The last couple of seasons have been boring because by game week 10, you knew who was going down and then you knew who was going to win the league. But I think this season, the Prem has brought a lot of things that the fans didn't get in the last couple of years. So, yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah. Going to the City ground, you had a very interesting 2-2 draw against United, didn't you?
Well, it was a game which we needed to win. We needed to get a first Premier League win under Sean Dyche away. I thought against Porto the week before on Thursday night, we were absolutely excellent. The players really showed that they wanted to play for Dyche, and like Ange, which, I don't really want to speak about. Let's focus on now. Let's focus on the present and not the past. But the players were really up for it. I thought the fans were brilliant. I thought bringing someone that is a Forest fan in is slightly risky because it could either be like excellent or it could be really shambolic. But going back to Saturday's game, I thought we were a lot better going forward. We kept the ball a lot better from Gibbs White, especially. I've been really critical of him this year. He's not been good enough. But whenever we are seeming to win and play well, he is the focal point. That's been the same thing for the last 2 or 3 years now, that if you give him the ball, we will create chances, we'll score goals. And I think we saw that his goal especially was a really, really nice header. I don't think I've ever seen him do that other than corners, to be honest with you. But I just want to highlight Nicolas Savona as well at right back. Scored his first goal for us at the weekend. Lovely little anticipation to win the ball and score from a cross in the 6-yard box. That brings me on to my next point of crosses, though. Forest scored from 2 crosses in the same game, and that is just pure Sean Dyche. I know that you can agree with me on that, Thomas, that it is, get the ball into the box, cause danger. But the same problems still arise for Forest. It's set piece again. Last season under Nuno, we changed from man marking to zonal marking from set pieces, and it worked really well. For majority of the season, we defended set pieces a lot. But I think a big miss is Chris Wood from zonal marking, because he wants to go and attack the ball. The things I was saying to the people around me watching the game is, name me one other player other than Milenkovic that wants to go and head that ball. And I can't name one, because it just doesn't seem right. But teams have figured us out from set pieces. They're putting it to the back post every time. And all we've got is Milenkovic, and he stood like at the front of the 6-yard box. I don't really understand it. I think that's something that Dyche really needs to work on, and we need to sort it out. Don't get me wrong, the first goal, the ball wasn't over the line, and how the assistant referee can see from 68 yards away and through 2 goalposts to see the ball's gone out, I will never know. But yes, we can be critical of that, and yes, we can blame that. But as a team this season, we haven't been good enough at defending set pieces. And I spoke about earlier on, long throwing set pieces really coming back into play. And if this continues, I don't see how we can't stop conceding goals. The thing with Man United, I thought we exploited Amad Diallo really well. Going forward, I think we all know how good of a player he is, but defensively, he's just not a right wing back at all. I think that's something that Man United need to maybe look at, in terms of, yes, you can't really drop him because of how good he is, but it needs addressing. They need someone that can do a better job defensively. But I thought Man United were flat, really flat. Sesko was poor. I don't know if Amorim really needs to get a bit more out of him. But Mbeumo and Cunha were good. I think that they are 2 really quality signings, especially Mbeumo. He causes so many problems, especially in the 10. Drifted wide, got Bruno involved, and that's where they created their chances from, which is fair enough. But I think we deserved a win, but I'll take a point for sure.
Yeah.
Can I ask as well, do you think Sean Dyche is the right man for the long term? Because for the last 4 or 5 years, it always felt like Sean Dyche would be the Forest manager. And it always felt like a matter of time. It always felt like he was waiting for that job. He's very good at steadying the ship. I think everyone knows that. And he has got a lot of experience. But do you think he can take you to that next level that Nuno took you to?
With the personnel we've got, I can't see why he can't. I think, the likes of Elliot Anderson, he's arguably probably the best player that I've ever seen in a Forest shirt. We know what Gibbs White brings. You've got a player that he's worked with in the past with Chris Wood, who, if you give him the right service, he'll score chances. I think we've got quality in defence. Milenkovic, Murillo, really good last year, but seemed to be a little bit wayward this year. But I just want to point out Nico Williams as well. This might be bold saying it, but I think he is the best signing we've made since returning to the Premier League in terms of consistency. For me, he's player of the season so far, and yeah, I can't see why Dyche can't go and do it with the personnel. And I think also he's going to have the backing of Marinakis. He spent so much money on the managers that have come in, but also I don't really know. I think this summer window has been a failure for Forest. Against Chelsea, for example, we had 130 million pounds worth of players bought in the summer, not even in the 18. And you've still got players like Tile One you get in a game. You've still got players like Willy Bolly on the bench, which, you know, they're good players, but not for where we want to be aiming for and what we really should be doing. Short term, Dyche will steady the ship. I think he's kind of already done that in terms of on the pitch, but off the pitch, building that relationship with Marinakis is key. We know how cutthroat he is. We know how, you know, erratic he can be. And I think that's something that, you know, Marinakis and Sean Dyche will work out between them. And I'm optimistic of what will come, to be honest.
Can I just ask as well, where do Forest fans stand on Marinakis? Because obviously he's done so much for the football club, taking you from bottom of the Championship to European football. He came under a lot of scrutiny for sacking Ange and sacking Nuno and bringing in Ange, and now you're on your first manager and it's only November. Are the fans sort of not turning against him, but what is the perception of him amongst the fan base at the moment?
I think my perspective, I'll give from both sides of like generic and my own. I think personally, I will 110%. I'll back Marinakis whatsoever. If it wasn't for him, I genuinely believe we'd probably be rotting in League One. We were, you know, the old owners we had, Fawaz, that, you know, them kind of people just didn't really have a clue. And Marinakis has got that winning mentality, which I think is exactly what Forest needed. He brought in the right managers, and he's, as I said before, he spent a lot of money, he's invested. And I think he just needs to take a step away from the recruitment. He needs to let the managers do that. We've seen that this summer with players that have come in and not getting a game because the managers don't fancy them. Even under Nuno, even under Ange, and now Dyche, there's certain players like Callum Awendu, for example. I think he scored 17 goals in Ligue 1 last year for Stade de Rennes, but he's played like 7 minutes in the last 3 games. So I don't really know, but I think the generic fan base would say, they'd kind of agree with me that, you know, we all are thankful for Marinakis. We're grateful of what he's done and what he brings, but also he needs to also hold his hands up and say what bringing in Edu was probably a little bit of a mistake. Sacking Nuno and bringing Ange in was also a mistake. There's been 3 major turns, I guess, in the season this year that he probably needs to hold his hands up and say, look, I did wrong. And I think the fan base would then be fully back on side with him then.
Yeah. And last question before I let Thomas wrap it up. What is the expectation for this season? Because obviously you want to go far in Europe, but at the same time, you don't want to put yourselves in a position where you're not doing well in the league because you are sat in the relegation zone. Sort of what is the expectation? Do you want to go far in Europe, even if it means you'll struggle more in the league? Or do you think it's just about, you know, sustaining a decent position in the league and trying to do as well as you can in Europe without putting yourself in trouble of relegation?
I think that we need to be staying in the Premier League. I think that is the main priority. You look at the money it gives, you look at, you know, kind of rebuilding again, start from scratch, let's go again. And that's what Dyche will, you know, hopefully bring. But I also think that Europe is it's a good distraction, and it does bring a bit of a, you know, like joy to the fans, and it's brilliant. I've loved it. It's been mint. But I don't know. I kind of think whatever happens in Europe happens. It's one of them things that if you would have asked me 5-6 years ago, I'd have only dreamt of it. You know, I think it's one of them things that not many people get to experience.
Yeah.
In terms of English football, and that's a lucky thing. And I think that is the kind of mindset that I have of it, is enjoy it while it's there, but also we need to stay in this division. we talked about earlier, Southampton going down. Yes, you know, they're nowhere near as good as what we are in terms of the players and the stature. But look what can happen.
Yeah.
Football is a crazy sport. One little thing can change everything. And I think that's what we need to realise.
Yeah.
And that reminds me a bit of Spurs last season. They obviously won the Europa League, the first trophy that they won in a very long time. But if it wasn't for the 3 promoted teams, they had every chance of getting relegated. And sort of, do you want European success if it means it sacrifices a position in the league? I suppose that's sort of the question that the Forest fans have got to ask. I'll let you wrap up now, Thomas.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's said. So with that, thank everyone for joining. I'll see you next week.